pretty excited. I'm driving down, heading to see David Woodworth to pick up a old tent trailer. What a beautiful day. You can look over here. You can even see the mountains. David?
All right. So I remember my first interaction with you was you had your camp car online with the advertisement. I think it was Craigslist. It was kind of for sale, but in there you had this funny thing and you said something about you trade psychological services.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I remember calling you up and I took it in jest of what you meant and said I'd offer you some psychological services and you asked for my qualifications and that was about the end of that conversation.
Well, you know, I'm a junk collector at heart.
Yes.
And if it's old and rusty, I'm interested in it.
Yes.
And part of that became I started with a Model A, and then I got a tent trailer, and then I found another tent trailer, and I eventually ended up with 50 campers between the ages of 1914 and 1937.
Wow.
And so I had collected that and actually used them. I drove across the United States with my daughters in a 1928 Model A, pulling a 1931 travel trailer, and it took us two months, but we covered all the U.S. in a Model A and an old tent trailer.
Where did you end up going?
Well, I left L.A. and went to Calgary to Stampede. We watched the Stampede, then went to Edmonton Shopping Mall. From there, we left and went to Maine, through New York City, to Dollywood, and back to California.
Wow. Wow. How many miles was that?
Further than I want to walk. But it's about 3,000 miles across the U.S.
Yeah. So about 6,000 round trip.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But being in a Model A, I had to go back roads a lot of times, so I probably racked up a few more miles.
And which Model A and which camper was that?
Well, it was a Gilkie Tent trailer, and it was a 28 Model A touring car.
Okay, and this is a Gilkie, right?
Yes, Gilkerson was built in Terre Haute, started in 1919, and was probably the largest trailer manufacturer out there. And they made it through the Depression. They made it all the way up through the Second World War. And then they closed the doors when, after the war was over, they would have been in a revival again, and it would have really picked up. So they quit just a little too soon. But there aren't a lot of Gilkies left anymore. There are a few, but you don't see them every day.
You want to tell us how you got started?
Yeah. I actually, unfortunately, went through a divorce of not my choosing, and I couldn't afford to live any place in L.A., so I came up to Tehachapi, where this was rural. There was no electricity out here or anything. I bought 10 acres, and the lady carried the paper, and I took $50,000 and built a barn, lived in the barn, worked for $2.50 an hour, and started a business called Antique Recreation Vehicles, in which Good Sam Club hired me, and I went around the United States, and then RVIA hired me, and I was with them for 15 years. So I had a good run at playing with old campers.
You were telling me earlier you got involved with a new camper, and you were also, president of an organization?
Well, I was the national spokesperson for RVIA's National History Tours. And so I would take a telescope apartment, which was made from 1913 to 17 in San Francisco, and had 3 slide outs in 1913. And then I had the camper made by Anheuser-Busch during Prohibition, and there are only 2 of those known to exist. Bill Hara has one, which is in the Reno Car Museum, and I have the other one.
Wow.
Now, there may be a couple others out there. I've heard stories, but I've never been able to verify it.
Now, do you just collect camping stuff, or what's your passion?
Well, as I said, if it's old and rusty, I collect it. But I collected early camping equipment. I have a mousetrap collection. I have a vacuum cleaner collection. I collect apple peelers. I mean, as long as it's rusty and old, I'm interested in it. You could talk to me about it.
So, are you still collecting stuff?
Yeah, if I could find a cap gun, I would be interested in that because I have cap guns from the 1800s, and so I collect them. I collect muzzle loaders. I mean, I really do need a psychiatrist.
What about stuff you have? Are you looking to sell stuff as well?
Sure. I collect boats. My oldest boat is 1880 to 1910, and my newest boat is a 1936 Sears and Roebuck Sea Dory with a Briggs & Stratton air-cooled engine in it, and sold for $47 in the catalog.
Great. If people are interested, they can just personal message me through the video, and then I can pass on the information.
I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody. And if they got any old cap guns with trains running down the barrel, trade you some things.
You also talked about in our conversations faith,
Yes.
And tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I would be a Christian, and I remember I wrote a paper one time about two girls and a donut. And I was in the military, and these two girls invited me into a Christian Armed Servicemen Center, and they were cute, and I was a sailor, and I thought, well, I'll go in. And a guy was speaking on the back, is it reasonable to believe the Bible is true? And I thought, the guy must be nuts. So I listened. And I was convinced after listening to his lectures that he was really accurate. So I have spent the last 40 years, 50 years studying scripture, studying science, philosophy, as much as I can to understand. The requirement of God is that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your strength. Who in the world can do that? And what he pointed out is that Jesus was going to the cross, and he said, this is not my idea of a good day. I don't want to do this. However, it's not my will, but your will be done. And so Christ kept the Shema, or you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul. He was obedient. Paul writes, he, God, hath made him, Jesus, to be sin on our behalf, that we might be made the righteousness of God in him. So any relationship I have with God has to come through Christ. He says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. And so I go to the atheist group meetings, and I've been doing that for years. I attend every once in a while the Communist Party, the Socialist Party, and then to keep it balanced, I met with David Mather, the head of the white supremacist group up in Idaho. So I try to be open-minded.
So why do you connect with those other groups? Some people might be confused.
Well, I connect mostly so I can learn why you take your position and why I take my position. Every position is built on a presupposition. I cannot prove God exists, and nobody really can. But nobody can prove he doesn't exist. I assume he exists and base my life on that. Now, that's what I would say to a secular atheist. If I'm talking to a Christian, I would say, read Hebrews 11:4, where it says, by faith we understand the heavens were created by God out of things that cannot be seen, which I believe to be subatomic particles.
Wow. Well, very fascinating.
Okay.
Anything else that you would want to share?
No, I should say Christianity really is not a system of beliefs. It's a way that you're to live your life. God calls me to become something, not to know something. And too many people just rest on, I want to know this. And that's important, but that's not the ultimate goal.
Great. Well, thank you.
Okay.
So, you gave me this, which I think is the rarest thing in your collection, because I imagine there's only one of these.
Yeah, that's right.
And I appreciate it. I will hang it up. Yeah.
And that's when I was younger.
A couple days younger, and you have the camp car and RV
That's right.
showing the contrast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I had a great visit with David, and now I'm heading home with that tent trailer. More adventures to come. What a beautiful drive home.
Now I'm entering Bakersfield. Wow, what an amazing experience. I'm so glad I could share it with you. David started with almost nothing and built the world's largest auto camping collection.